Where is the best place to protect your money against inflation and the resetting of fiat money? Most rich people will not tell you where they store their wealth. It's quietly hidden away. They don't need a target on their back. If they talk about their wealth, they're going to attract expensive lawsuits, tax investigations, unwanted media attention, and public scrutiny. There's also risky territory telling people exactly where to store your money for safety reasons and also legal reasons. And it's against the law to give financial advice without being registered to do so. So right now, I will reveal exactly where I'm personally storing my wealth. This is not financial advice and is simply my own findings from my own experience. It's imperative you have your wealth as protected as possible and are as prepared as possible as you can be for the inevitable Great Reset. Gold. God's money. As they print more money, it loses value. But they can't create more gold. Gold has been with us since the beginning of time and will be here until the end of the earth. As I speak right now, 1 gram of gold is worth 62 pounds. That's a measly amount of gold though. To put it into perspective, £1 coin is 453 grams. Therefore, a small golden coin might cost around about £2,000. When golden coins were used as money in the 1400s, a £1 coin would literally be worth £1. Today, even our coins are fake because they're just polished to resemble gold. Real gold is accepted as a medium of exchange, and I can never envision gold becoming worthless. On average, it increases in price by around 10% per year, which historically has generally beaten the rate of inflation year by year. During the economic downturns and uncertainty, gold usually appreciates as people rush to put their money into something more stable. You can easily trade it for any other form of payment at any time quickly. It also has its disadvantages. If you owned a company that's worth £1 billion, it'll be far harder to physically steal that company because it's not a physical commodity that can be stolen. Whereas gold can absolutely be stolen. During the Great Depression in 1933, the USA's President Franklin D. Roosevelt prohibited ordinary citizens from owning gold and made it completely illegal. There was no vote or debate in Congress about it, and the people of the USA were only given 1 month's notice to deliver all of their gold to the Federal Reserve Bank. And the reason was to relieve pressure on the banks. Anybody who refused to deliver up their gold was given a 10-year prison sentence. Meanwhile, the government significantly increased its gold reserve. If somebody had written a book prior to this happening, nobody would have believed it. But it happened. The USA only allowed citizens to own gold again some 30 years later in just 1974. Although I do have faith in gold, God's money, I don't have faith in governments not to strip it from me, and I'm also not excited by something that makes me zero yields. Cryptocurrency, the people's money. Cryptocurrencies are digital or virtual currencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. And many people laughed when cryptocurrencies first became widely known because they deemed Bitcoin as silly fake money. It's actually quite the opposite. Bitcoin has made tens of thousands of people millionaires in the last decade and has outperformed just about any other investment. It has far outperformed property, gold, and almost every company in the stock market. Let's be clear, not all crypto coins are the same. Many have failed and people have lost millions. If you see an influencer promoting their new coin, be very careful because many are used as pump and dump schemes. I own a fair amount of Bitcoin and Ethereum, but I rarely look at it. Like most investments, they'll go up, they'll go down in value. The key is to choose a coin you believe in long term, invest, and don't look at it daily. When emotions are high, intelligence is low. Blockchain is the underlying technology that makes crypto possible. It is a decentralized ledger that records all transactions across a network of computers. Every participant can see the transaction history and no processing fees are charged when taking or receiving payments. It can be used for so much more than storing cryptocurrencies, such as supply chain management, smart contracts, voting systems, healthcare records, and more. As well as being able to make immediate payments with no processing fees all across the world with no banker mediating the payments, cryptocurrencies are not controlled by any central banks or government. Hence, why many people refer to cryptocurrency as the people's money. Many of these coins have a limited number that can ever be in existence. This type of coin cannot be printed in the way that traditional money has been, meaning that it is scarce and therefore likely to hold its value. The stock market, shares in corporations. Investing money into the stock market means purchasing shares in a publicly traded company such as Amazon, Apple, Tesla, and thousands of other companies that you believe will grow. These sorts of large blue chip companies choose to go public in order to expand using investor finance, which means ordinary people can have a slice of the pie. If you invest in one share at Amazon, this might cost you £180, and it means you're now a tiny part owner of Amazon. This means that if the company doubles in value, your £180 is now worth £360. You doubled your money. And on top of this, every time the board of directors want to receive a dividend, you'll be entitled to a tiny dividend too. Your percentage will be in proportion with your shareholding, but this means you can benefit from capital growth at the same time as receiving some cash flow. Many of my friends invest in companies like Starbucks, and then they use the dividends from Starbucks to get their drinks at Starbucks, and they call it their free Starbucks drink. Whilst this is cute for investing small amounts of money, I wouldn't recommend putting more money than you can comfortably afford to lose into one given company. I personally invest in the stock market, but rather than picking companies or using expensive financial advisors, I invest into the Standard & Poor's 500, S&P 500. This is where your investment is spread between the largest publicly traded companies in the USA in various different sectors and industries. This means that instead of investing £180 in Amazon, one share at Amazon, I can invest £180 spread across all the top 500 companies all at once, including Tesla, Google, Meta. Every few months, the index will be updated, removing weaker performing companies and replacing them with safer bets. The S&P 500 usually outperforms picking stocks, even when you have a financial planner working on your behalf. This is probably the most passive investment in the world that requires no skill or effort from the investor. I'm confident that the government will never seize your money from the stock market because the big companies would never allow it. Unless they made owning a company illegal, it will be near impossible for governments to prevent investors investing in companies. There'd be no reason for them to ever do it, and it would be not tolerated. Property investment, real estate, real asset wealth. When reading through the Sunday Times Rich List, a public list of the wealthiest individuals or families in the UK, it's clear to see that the super rich choose property as their primary way of storing wealth. Despite the government's ploy to prevent ordinary folk from becoming property investors, 60% of the UK's entire net wealth is invested in property, with over 1/4 of the wealthiest people in Britain having property listed as their primary source of wealth. Even companies that have got nothing to do with property and make their money through an unrelated business are likely to invest the majority of their profits in property. McDonald's make most of their money through property. The vast majority of my personal wealth is also in property. I do this in my personal name, my wife's name, private pensions, trust funds, and multiple different companies. I own a finance company that loans money into other property investment deals, and this is where 90% of my wealth is stored. It's practically impossible for them to strip you of your property ownership. When Andrew Tate was thrown into prison in 2022, 2023, they froze his bank, stole his cryptocurrency, seized all of his expensive supercars, but they didn't take his properties from him. And whilst the government desperately tries to prevent the general public from investing too heavily in property by using disincentives like taxation and by influencing mainstream media, the news tells us properties will crash. Meanwhile, property prices continue to rise year after year and have done for hundreds of years. Tax rules are hard hitting for small-time landlords, but there are always loopholes because ultimately the super rich own properties themselves. I put a percentage of my taxable business profits into a private SSAS pension, small self-administered scheme, which means I pay no personal tax because it didn't go to me personally, it went into my pension. I pay no corporation tax because investing in a pension is seen as a fully tax-deductible expense. My pension can now invest that money tax-free into commercial properties such as land, warehouses, and hotels. All of the profit from these commercial properties goes into my pension, which is tax-free. Unlike gold, property can generate huge cash flow month by month. While you're waiting for it to increase in appreciation, you're receiving a monthly passive income from your tenants. Property is my favorite asset class due to the cash flow it gives me. That's why real estate is known as real asset wealth. Your fiat money in the bank is at risk like never before. Not only is it shrinking in value due to the constant inflation as the government prints more and more money, it's easily exposed should the banks freeze your account or worse. Fiat money will be crashed to zero in the Great Reset. Therefore, it's wise to consider storing your wealth in real assets such as stocks, gold, cryptocurrency, and property. And after years of study and research, I've come to the conclusion that the safest and strongest asset class is property investment.